Hey everybody, my name's Captain Franchise, and today I'm starting a dual coach franchise. Hopefully this will be the first one that you'll see on YouTube, maybe the only one. This is going to be between two brothers that are going to have a hardball type family-ish feud to see who's going to be the first one that's going to be able to bring a Lombardi trophy home to a team that has never won a Super Bowl for their two respective teams. The first coach I would like to introduce you to is going to be the older of these two brothers, and that is Leroy Franchise. He is going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, flipping from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and into a somewhat kind of power run game. This team has some pieces to win. They're going to have to still fix their defense, but eventually this team's going to need to rebuild. That might have to happen now, sooner than later. As for the coach of the other team, this will be Lamar Franchise, the younger of the two brothers, taking on the maybe more difficult task of trying to rebuild the Houston Texans after Bill O'Brien screwed up royally, letting DeAndre Hopkins get traded away for basically nothing and getting back a running back. Jadeveon Clowney walks, J.J. Watt walks, and Deshaun Watson no longer wants to play. This team was on the cusp of potentially going to the Super Bowl and at least having the Chiefs down by at least like 2 or 3 scores. So this is a team that's looking to try and get a quick bounce back, maybe something through the draft, maybe something through free agency. They do have some cap room they can work with. Speaking of draft, and speaking of trying to build this team, Deshaun Watson is going to end up getting traded to the Washington football team for a first this year, first next year, and a second next year. Don't ask me how. I got to keep this somewhat fun for myself and keep it somewhat interesting here. We're just going to say the charges got dropped. Everything works out. He gets traded to the NFC, where the Texans hopefully won't have to face him. But if you've seen the Falcons schedule, you already know that Atlanta is going to have to deal with this kind of situation, as one brother is trying to get ahead on the other brother by maybe messing with his schedule a little bit. And with Deshaun Watson being traded, that's going to free up a roster spot. And although Tyrod Taylor has been named the starter for now, the Texans would like to bring in a former MVP and near Super Bowl champion, a guy that should really be on a team, Cam Newton. They're going to sign him to a $5 million contract, going to move some jerseys around, and they're going to end up giving him his number one. Super Cam is back. Come around towards week 1, we will see between practice who is starting from between Tyrod and Cam. So both QBs can run. Both QBs have a decent arm. We'll end up seeing what happens here a little bit later. I had to unmute the mic there for recording. Now, with the way this is gonna work, I will be choosing from the coach suggestion screen to show offensive, defensive coordinator. I'm going to build up the playbooks a little bit more to make sense and not run the same 5 plays every now and again. I will move and use the quarterbacks to try and, avoid sags and keep the play alive. But the CPU, because the CPU will just stand there. If I have coach mode on, and it will take a sack, as you've seen if you play franchise, sometimes CPU will just back up or not move and just take the sack. Sometimes it's smart, sometimes it's not. But other than that, the CPU will manage everything else, minus maybe some of the catches, because a lot of the times that I've played, I have noticed that the receiver will not go for the catch at all. Like anybody who plays simulation for some reason, any other mode I haven't seen this, but simulation, you throw a corner out and you don't throw it like on a straight line every time, which some of these QBs will not with their accuracy. It gets picked off and your receiver will make no attempt to do anything. But back to the main point here while I still have some time. Example of CPU taking over everything else. If I call a run play, all you will see me do is ID the mic. I might move a receiver or a tight end, move the fullback. I might do some motion to try and get a better hat count and ID the mic. With this, all I'm trying to do is get a better run fit so we can get a hat on a hat, potentially have a good running play. But all I'm going to really do after that is I'm just going to snap the ball and I'm not going to touch the controller. The running back is going to run. I actually want to see if I can get this to work the way I want it to without having the CPU do everything. A lot of times CPU won't call plays that I would want it to call. they'll call runs for absolutely no reason when you should be trying to pass. At that point, I'll flip through, go find a pass play I like, but for the most part, it'll just be coach suggestions. The running back will be running and doing everything else with the CPU. That's where the ball carrier vision will come in. A running back that has 70 might cut back too early or not cut back at all and get tackled, or the running back that has 85 plus might hit the hole just right, keep on running. Break tackle comes into play. The CPU does stiff arm a lot better. CPU will end up breaking some tackles. I do have the sliders the way that they are, just to try and keep it somewhat, I guess, realistic, maybe a little bit fair. On the defensive side of the ball, I will be picking the plays. Again, coach suggestions. The only difference on this side, I have defensive auto flip off. Only because the CPU will always try to flip coverage assignments. And it'll put the strength of the defense on one side only for coverage, whether I want the strength of my defensive line one way or another. I will also be using auto subs, formation subs, all that stuff to try and keep it realistic, keep fresh bodies in, and put people in a position where they can make a good stop and play adequate, good defense. I've moved some people around position-wise, try and make better fit of things. But when I do pick a play, you'll see me just hover on a defensive lineman. Never the same defensive lineman each play. I will be trying to flip to a different lineman. Because when you are, even though I'm not using the player, the CPU will see that you're on it and the player will go harder than everybody else. And I've seen this happen with somebody that even has a greater stamina, ends up running out of stamina faster than everybody else. So I'll be on defensive lineman, but I won't do anything. I might stay on a lower rated defensive lineman more often than not to try and stay away from messing with potential statistics that come through. Again, it's all about trying to keep it realistic. And again, I don't want a user unless the QB is just sitting there with all kinds of time. You might see a flick of the stick to the right, left, down, or up, just to say like, yeah, see if you can get off this block, and then the CPU still takes over. It's gonna run after the QB anyways. But other than that, I don't think I'll be switching on to the cornerbacks or anything. It seems that with the scouting update, some of the coverages have been kind of tweaked a little bit more. I think cover 2 still kind of has its times when it's not good. And I think that also attributes to me having the defensive auto flip off. When I had auto flip on, and it tries to put the coverage to a certain side, I'm a guy that I call a ton of cover 2 all the time. I love to keep 2 high shells just because I'm tired of always getting beat deep trying to play the run. So I play a lot of 2 high shell. And the safety, as you guys would know, would just sit towards the middle of the field as if they're playing cover 3 or 1, and nobody plays the correct bump and run coverage on your cornerback. So the receiver just runs deep, and what do you know, that's a happy-go-lucky free touchdown. But with defensive auto flip off, they do tend to play it a little bit better. I've tried upping the zone coverage. It hasn't really done anything, but again, flipping the auto defense off has done more than I could actually hope for. There's still some busting coverage, which is all realistic, so you keep it the same, and hopefully things like that will work out. With this, I'd like to say, like, I've had just a ton of fun just coming up with the idea and speaking it over with people on what I should do when it comes to this, and just I wanted to do both of these teams. I really and truly was just stuck between which team it was I wanted to do. And I got the idea, why not I just do both teams? Which brings me to the next point. There will be 3 playlists on for this series. One pertaining only to the Falcons, one pertaining only to the Texans, and one that will have every episode and every video that is made. During games, since a lot of the games, could be played at the same time, I'll try to keep an eye on what time each game would be played and release the video accordingly. If games would be played at the same time, like they both have 1 o'clock games. Of course, I can't play both games at the same time. It wouldn't make sense. I physically cannot do that. But what I can do is release the videos at the same time. With releasing the videos at the same time, there'll be little clippets here and there of priority alert because of the fact that I'm covering both the teams. You're watching the Texans game, the Falcons score. You might see a little clip pop up in the top right and a little cutoff where I get quieter on one end and louder on the other end saying, hey, the Falcons just scored, how they do NFL red zone. Stuff like that. That'll happen on both sides, whether it's Texans or Falcons, if they're at the same time. If they're not at the same time, it might be a small little highlight, or if it's going into overtime, going into the game. But trying to keep it realistic like that. But if the Texans have the 1 o'clock game and the Falcons have the late game, then the videos will be released about an hour or maybe 2 hours apart from each other. But a lot of the videos will be released same day, unless if they all play on Sunday, it'll just depend on how much time is supposed to pass between them, will be how much time is between each game or each video, but both will come out the same day. If one of them plays a Monday game, that video will be released the next day. If one plays a Thursday game, that video will be released the day before the other ones. You kind of can catch my drift at this point. Man, I got up and I left to go do something. Let me actually go through what I need to say for the team. So for the older brother, and when I was talking about the rebuild, I think they have the pieces to at least get to the playoffs. They do. They don't play too many divisional games in the beginning. I think they really just play the Bucks early on, and after that they really go play the East, NFC and AFC East, and they just kind of roll through. And a lot of their games this is for the Falcons, by the way, a lot of their games come towards the end of the season for divisional, so if they can, so it's like mid to end season, so if they can get on a roll, I think that they will be in a good spot. For taking on the Atlanta team, he gets, because I want to make this about them, and I'm just kind of here to document everything. He gets Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, a ragtag team of an offensive line where your left tackle, your right guard are solidified. Can Matt Hennessy prove himself to be the center point, that captain that they're gonna need in the middle? With Jalen Mayfield, gonna move him to the guard position, power run for him. And Caleb McGarry, is he going to be good in tackle, or is he going to end up potentially getting replaced after this year? There's some questions on the offense. What about the receiver depth? You have Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst, so I'm gonna build up the playbook. So expect a lot of 2 tight end sets where they're both gonna be on the field. Expect to see that quite a bit. I might even, add those in on my own to make sure they're there just to have them. With the 3-4, in my opinion, really Grady Jarrett solidifies. He's a good piece. It's the one good piece I think you can't go wrong with. Tyler Davidson's there. You got Traquan Graham that got drafted, who I think could potentially, towards the end of the season, start getting more reps. You have, I'm trying to remember the roster off the top of my head because I like the team. Deion Jones and Foye Oluokun, 2 good middle linebackers, should be able to fly around the football. Got to figure out who's going to be the other defensive end, because it goes Grady Jarrett, Tyler Davidson. And you can have either Marlon Davidson, John Kaminsky, Traquan Graham. Since we're in a 3-4, there can be a lot of rotation towards the interior defensive line. Who's going to be on the opposite side of Dante Fowler? Who's going to replace Dante Fowler if he doesn't, pick it up? Coming to Atlanta, he hasn't had too many sacks, and I mean, if he doesn't do too much this year, there's a good chance he could get traded. Not saying like he doesn't get too many sacks, but if he doesn't produce either sacks, pressures, forced fumbles, maybe an interception, because he technically is playing linebacker right now. As you can see our offense on the screen, as I have this running at like 3 times speed to try and keep things going pretty quickly. And there's our defense. Like this team has a lot of questions. They haven't been a good defense in I don't know how long. Even when they were a good defense, I don't remember the last time that the Falcons, that I know I've been watching, I don't remember the last time they've had a top 10 defense, which that's what this team is going to end up getting turned into. You know, defense wins championships. So, gotta have that top defense. If we can get a defense that's number 10, will be all right in my book. But if you get a defense that's top 10, then I think everything is gonna work out. Gonna build this team through the draft, through free agency, maybe a couple of trades here and there. But you know, that's gonna be on myself, the way that the team is heading, and maybe with you guys or whoever's watching it, maybe you might have an influence with this as well on what you think should happen. Remember, I'm not picking the entire play. It's the offensive coordinator, so if a play gets picked, I'm just trying to roll with it. I might make an adjustment, but I'm gonna try and just roll with the play and keep things with however the play is supposed to go. But just before the video switches over, I'm gonna keep talking about the Falcons a little bit longer. I think special teams is probably what's gonna come down to. Cause like you can put them in the right position, but if we can force the offense to do what we want them to do, then we will. I think we'll have a better chance on defense. I don't think that we're gonna be able to rely on the defense full out this season. I think we still have the offensive minded team. It's just that this team has been stripped of some big things, and now they're trying to go into a zone run, almost a power run game. And they're still believing heavily in Matt Ryan, which is why they didn't draft a QB. They instead, their first round pick was in Kyle Pitts, and with how long it's been for this update, you can see that how things have gone in real life, and I wish they were using Kyle Pitts a little bit more. But it is what it is. I can tell you he's gonna get the ball probably just as much, if not more, than Calvin Ridley, just because Matt Ryan doesn't have the strength to really be chucking the ball as deep as I would like him to, and the receiver's not jumping. I probably wouldn't take too many deep shots. It might end up being kind of what Drew Brees was this past season, of always going short. Calvin Ridley might end up adopting the role of slant boy. Michael Thomas. Yeah, he ain't gonna say nothing because he don't watch this. But this team has potential to win 7 games. Are we going to win 7 games? We're surely gonna try. We are surely gonna try. So on the offensive side, expect a lot of running, a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of play action. We're still going to rely on this offense for the first year, maybe the first 2 years, to try and build a defense. On the defensive side, you expect a lot of blitzing and a lot of base personnel. So 3-4, instead of running nickel with their 3 wide, expect a lot of base personnel. Going to give up some passing yards. I know it's kind of what's going to happen. But with the amount of time that I see it, and this happens in the actual NFL, the amount of nickel play that comes out, yeah, people say base, but you can also see that they get run on relatively easy. Now, the last few minutes I have, I'm gonna flip over to the Texans side of things, just talking about them. On the offense side of the ball, you got Tyrod Taylor and Cam Newton, who either are gonna be splitting reps or having their every other video kind of battle for the number 1 QB. And we're also going to have Davis Mills getting constant training to see if he could potentially be the quarterback of the future. Still might end up drafting somebody to kind of compete with him, but just in a realistic manner, gonna give him a chance. especially if this team isn't winning games towards the end of the season. I think he's going to play a little bit more. The games might not be won. He might throw touchdowns, he might throw picks, but get him out there, get him some experience, and I think that'll be better for his long-term development. We got 3 running backs on roster that are all about, I think Phillip Lindsay's 30 now. We'll say all the running backs are at least 29 or greater. So, that's something to look at. That's one thing. You got Brandon Cooks, a receiver. I think Nico Collins could be a guy that could get some playing time towards the middle of the season and be in a bigger role towards the end of the season. Defense, they're flipping to a 4-3. No more JJ, Jadavian, none of those big names. So now, gotta find the identity. And right now, that's Justin Reed being the safety in the back end. Gotta see how's his team gonna perform. Because with the Falcons, I want to turn that into a defensive heavy team. With the Texans, I want to turn that into an offensive heavy team. Sure, the Texans, and I think they were in a better spot than the Falcons when it came to offense and defense. They had that top 10 defense, and then they had a mid-tier, if not top 10 offense. They were in a good spot. So I want to have that top 10 offense that's constantly throwing, running, whatever they want to do, they're going to be able to do it type offense. It might even be a power run game just to prove a point and say that we can do this. But expect to see changes throughout the season. Next episode that comes up will be looking at the scouting update, so you guys can see everything. I'm going to link the Twitter and I'll explain more of that next episode. But I'll be having links in bio and links in the description of everything that's going on, Twitter, all that. But like I said, next episode will be the scouting update, more or less looking at what each team is going to need or what each team is going to go through. Again, each team is going to have their own video, so twice the amount of work that I got to do, but I'm gonna have fun doing it. And after every game, there will be a little news update video for, in between games. Hey, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, see what happened. Maybe we'll adjust the sliders, show you guys what's going on, check draft stories, pick up some guys in the draft. Maybe we'll see what the trade block has, all kinds of stuff, behind the scenes stuff, some out of game stuff will make things work here. So this episode, a news episode of scouting, then game, then news episode, then game, news episode, game, news episode. It could be a bye week, news episode. Bye weeks would be news episodes, games. Anything that happens when it comes to the talking will be a small little snippet, a mini clip, a breaking news, a coach is talking with so-and-so, let's get the inside scoop on this, see what they talked about type thing. I'll explain that more in the next episode because I'm kind of running out of time here and I kind of went off script, so I can just have some fun with this. Yeah, it's been long. I hope that you guys enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. And let's get started for this dual coach franchise. I hope that you guys enjoy this.